Operation Gladio, NATO's secret stay-behind armies. Shadows of the Cold War. What if Europe, during the Cold War, was not only protected by NATO armies in the open, but also by hidden armies in the shadows? Networks of secret soldiers, weapons caches buried in forests, radio operators ready to transmit orders the moment the Soviets crossed the Iron Curtain. These forces had no uniforms, no official existence, and no accountability. And yet they were real. This was Operation Gladio, NATO's secret stay-behind program, designed to ensure that if the Red Army invaded Western Europe, resistance would continue long after governments fell. For decades, Gladio was one of the best-kept secrets of the Cold War, until revelations in the 1990s exposed its existence and sparked one of the greatest political scandals in post-war Europe. The story of Gladio is one of paranoia and preparation, but also of shadowy ties, covert funding, and accusations that these networks were used not just against Moscow, but against Europe's own citizens. To some, Gladio was a patriotic insurance policy. To others, it was a dangerous state within the state, a hidden army with hidden agendas. In this video, we dive deep into the origins, structure, scandals, and legacy of Operation Gladio, a story where truth, secrecy, and conspiracy blur into one. Chapter 1. Origins. Fear of the Red Army. The year is 1945. World War II has ended, but Europe is in ruins. The Red Army has pushed deep into Central Europe, occupying half of Germany and stretching its power across Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and beyond. To many in the West, it seems only a matter of time before Soviet tanks roll farther westward. For Washington and London, the threat is existential. The Marshall Plan will rebuild Europe's economies. NATO will organize its defenses. But what if all of that collapses in the face of a Soviet blitzkrieg? Memories of the Nazi occupation are still fresh, and resistance movements from France to Yugoslavia have shown how effective underground networks can be. Why not prepare them in advance, before the enemy arrives? Thus was born the idea of stay-behind armies. Across Western Europe, secret cells would be trained, armed, and funded to stay behind if the Soviets invaded. They would sabotage supply lines, assassinate collaborators, and keep alive the hope of liberation, just as the resistance had done against Hitler. The CIA, newly created in 1947, and Britain's MI6 were the architects. With NATO's formation in 1949, these secret networks were quietly woven into the alliance's broader defense strategy. Officially, they did not exist. In practice, they became a hidden second line of defense against Soviet aggression. But secrecy breeds danger. From the very start, Gladio, as the Italian branch came to be known, existed in a gray zone, where patriotism blurred into conspiracy. Chapter 2. Training and organization stay-behind networks were not improvised militias. They were carefully planned, structured, and trained. The CIA and MI6 recruited from across society. Former resistance fighters, trusted soldiers, anti-communist activists, and sometimes men from the far right who had proven their hatred of communism during the war. These recruits were organized into small cells, designed to survive even if others were captured. Each cell knew little about the others, reducing the risk of exposure. Members were taught sabotage techniques, clandestine communications, and guerrilla warfare. Weapons caches were hidden in forests, caves, and safe houses across Western Europe. Machine guns, explosives, and radios were sealed in containers, waiting for the day they might be needed. Some caches were discovered decades later, rusting relics of a secret war that never came. Training took place not only locally but also in secret facilities. In Italy, members were reportedly trained at NATO bases. In Belgium and Germany, exercises were held under the guise of military maneuvers. American and British instructors taught the use of demolitions, clandestine communication, and survival skills. Financing flowed from the CIA and MI6, funneled through NATO channels. Budgets were classified, hidden under innocuous line items. Even many elected officials were unaware of their existence. Gladio was not meant to be democratic. It was meant to be effective. But from the beginning, critics inside intelligence circles warned of the danger. Who controls these hidden armies, and to what end? Chapter 3. The Italian connection, Italy became the beating heart of Operation Gladio. Its geography, the southern flank of NATO exposed to the Mediterranean, made it vulnerable. Its politics, unstable governments, powerful communist parties, and Cold War tensions made it a testing ground. From the late 1940s, Italian intelligence, with CIA support, began building stay-behind networks. Recruits included World War II partisans, anti-communist veterans, and sometimes far-right extremists who saw communism as the greater enemy. Secret training camps taught sabotage, weapons handling, and clandestine communication. Caches of arms were buried in the countryside, ready to be unearthed in the event of Soviet invasion. But in Italy, Gladio's story grew darker. By the 1970s, Italy was racked by domestic terrorism. Far-left groups like the Red Brigades and far-right extremists both carried out bombings, assassinations, and kidnappings. In this environment, Gladio was accused of being more than a defensive insurance policy. Some claimed elements of the stay-behind network were linked to a strategy of tension, a deliberate effort to create chaos and fear, discrediting the left and justifying authoritarian responses. One of the most infamous events was the 1972 Petiano bombing, which killed 3 police officers. Initially blamed on left-wing militants, it was later revealed to have been carried out by neo-fascists with alleged ties to Gladio-linked circles. Other bombings, like the 1980 Bologna railway station attack that killed 85 people, were also connected by some investigators to extremist networks overlapping with stay-behind structures. When Prime Minister Giulio Andreotti revealed the existence of Gladio in 1990, these suspicions erupted into scandal. Italians asked, had NATO's secret army, meant to protect democracy, instead been used to manipulate it? Official inquiries struggled to find clear answers. Documentation was scarce, records were classified, and much of Gladio's activity remained in the shadows. Yet the Italian connection cemented Gladio's reputation as something far murkier than a patriotic defense plan. Chapter 4. Other European networks. Italy was not unique. Across Western Europe, stay-behind networks existed under different names and levels of secrecy. In Belgium, the network was known as SDRA-8. Like Gladio, it maintained hidden weapons caches and trained operatives. In the 1980s, Belgium was rocked by violent attacks by far-right groups and the mysterious Brabant killers, fueling speculation about these to stay-behind elements. Parliamentary inquiries later confirmed the existence of Gladio in Belgium, but could not conclusively link it to the violence. In Germany, the network was tied to Bundesnachrichtendienst (BND), the West German intelligence service. Germany's stay-behind units were trained in sabotage and infiltration, with bases reportedly hidden in rural areas. After the Cold War, some caches were uncovered, concrete evidence that these networks had been real and active for decades. In France, the picture is hazier. Evidence suggests that the French intelligence service maintained stay-behind cells, though far less has been publicly revealed compared to Italy or Belgium. In Greece, stay-behind forces played a controversial role. Some analysts argue they were involved in the 1967 coup by the military junta, though NATO has denied direct links. In Turkey, the network was called the counter-guerrilla. Here, the stay-behind structures were accused of involvement in brutal repression against leftists, with claims of torture, assassinations, and manipulation of politics. What unites all these stories is secrecy. Across the continent, these networks were prepared to fight the Soviets, but their very existence blurred lines of legality and democracy. Few parliaments knew of them, fewer still authorized them. They were NATO's hidden armies, operating in the shadows of the Cold War. Chapter 5. Exposure and scandal. For decades, Gladio remained one of NATO's best-kept secrets. That changed in 1990. In a dramatic announcement to the Italian parliament, Prime Minister Giulio Andreotti confirmed the existence of a clandestine NATO-backed network known as Gladio. The revelation sent shockwaves across Europe. Suddenly, conspiracy theories whispered for decades had proof. Newspapers splashed headlines about NATO's secret armies. Opposition politicians demanded inquiries. Citizens asked, how could such forces exist without democratic oversight? In Belgium, parliamentary investigations revealed the outlines of the stay-behind program. In Germany, the government confirmed its existence, but insisted it had never been used against domestic targets. In France and the Netherlands, questions swirled, but officials remained vague. In Turkey and Greece, accusations of political manipulation and human rights abuses resurfaced. NATO itself issued carefully worded statements, insisting that stay-behind networks were strictly defensive, designed only to resist Soviet invasion. The CIA and MI6 refused to comment, citing classification. The truth, as often in intelligence, was murky. Some networks may indeed have remained dormant, awaiting an invasion that never came. Others, especially in Italy, appear to have blurred into domestic politics, fueling fears of manipulation and state collusion with extremists. For many Europeans, the scandal eroded trust. The idea that unelected networks, funded by foreign intelligence agencies, had hidden arms and operatives on national soil was deeply unsettling. Gladio became a symbol of the deep state, the hidden hand of power operating outside public accountability. Chapter 6. Legacy and myths. In the decades since 1990, Operation Gladio has taken on a dual life, part documented history, part enduring myth. On one side, we know the basics. NATO, the CIA, and MI6 coordinated the creation of secret stay-behind networks in Western Europe. They trained operatives, cached weapons, and prepared for a Soviet invasion. These facts are confirmed by declassified documents, parliamentary inquiries, and testimony from officials. On the other side, Gladio has become a magnet for conspiracy theories. Some claim it was behind every terrorist attack of the 1970s and 1980s. Others argue it was a tool for controlling politics, ensuring that communist parties never gained power in Western Europe. While some of these claims lack hard evidence, the secrecy surrounding Gladio ensures suspicion endures. The truth likely lies in between. Operation Gladio was real, massive, and hidden. It was built to resist Soviet invasion, but in countries like Italy, its overlap with extremist networks blurred its mission. Whether by design or drift, Gladio crossed lines between defense and manipulation. Its legacy is profound. Gladio became a case study in how democracies can undermine themselves in the name of protection. It also left behind the iconic phrase, "Stay behind, Army," a reminder that even in peacetime, hidden wars can be prepared in silence. Conclusion: Armies in the shadows. Operation Gladio remains one of the Cold War's most fascinating and unsettling stories. For decades, ordinary Europeans lived alongside hidden armies they never knew existed. These networks were created to defend democracy, yet their secrecy and alleged ties to extremism cast long shadows over that very democracy. Gladio was both practical and symbolic. Practical, because it prepared for the nightmare scenario of Soviet invasion. Symbolic, because it revealed the mindset of the Cold War, a world where nothing was too paranoid, too secret, or too extreme if it promised an edge over the enemy. In the end, Gladio forces never had to fight the Red Army. Their weapons rusted in caches, their operatives aged in silence. But when the secret came out, it ignited debates that still resonate. Who guards the guardians? How much secrecy is too much? And what price do democracies pay when they build armies in the shadows? Today, Operation Gladio is remembered as both a shield and a warning. A shield against a threat that never came, and a warning about the dangers of secrecy in free societies. It is a reminder that history's deepest battles are not always fought in open fields, but sometimes in the hidden corners of politics, intelligence, and the shadows of the state.